Okay, cool. So, starting to fill out, everyone knows Jesse. There's no need for introduction. Interesting story, though. I would say that, and Dean, you can attest to this because you were around back in the day. Oh, what's up, Noah? Good to see you, bud. What's up?
What's
What's
up,
up? Got the
guys?
whole UK
Yo,
crew.
we here.
Nice
Yes,
team.
good.
And so, I think that Jesse, most of this whole agency thing, independent operators, it all really started from the SYC. And Dean, you and I are probably like the first 100 members. I think that your methodologies, Jesse, are what spawned this entire thing. Probably what made Smart Lead what it is, probably made what other competitors were able to do because of that. And then, it's all because there's been a community, which is amazing, man. So for today's Tuesday trigger session, I want to spend some time picking your brain because every time, this is without fail, throughout my entire time building RevReply, our agency, whenever I would come and chat with you, you would poke holes in things, you would give me advice, and it was just little nuggets, and all of those were incredibly valuable. And so I think it behooves us to spend a little bit of time talking about the state of data, right? So talking about where you see things going. Obviously, all of the Apollo stuff's getting canned, that's getting shut off, all the more reason to be using stuff like Lead Magic, but how do we future-proof ourselves? And then I think there's probably a lot of people in here that have worked on some sort of SaaS or have built something in Cursor or whatever, and, would love some guidance on that. So I think those are the two main topics of conversation today, if you're down to chat.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And let's try to keep some edge to this thing too, man. Let's not hold anything back here. Oh, there's no area we can go anywhere we want, right? So just go right at it. Let's not even screw
Cool.
around,
Well,
right?
let's kick it off. Let's talk about the state of union with things here in data, right? Like, what's it going to look like in 3 months? What's it going to look like in 6 months? And what can people do to future-proof themselves?
Yeah, so I think what people are definitely concerned is there's a couple of forces that have happened at the same time. Like a lot of people were using different lists out of Apollo and some other systems that they were getting. They were either on a legacy plan or something like that, right? Obviously. And what's happened is of course, a lot of those channels have been shut down. Of course, Apollo is also facing some challenges from, it looks like LinkedIn. There's a lot of news about this, but it looks like there's some discussions going on there. Obviously, their company was removed there, but Apollo is a great company. They got a great product. It's an incredible product, really. I mean, if you really think about it, it's almost like a sales navigator, right? It looks a lot like it. It's kind of what it is, right? I think it was the first of its kind. I think they're just, it's a great company. I mean, it really is truly a great company. And I think where now your cost per lead has gone up, it's like it used to be you could just go in there and just grab a list and sort of do it. Now your cost is going up a little bit, right? As they're getting bigger, their prices are going up. They're starting to become sort of a new class where everybody's about the API and they're going to try to get the data from the highest quality and the lowest cost. Those are going to be like where they meet, and it's whoever they can get it from first. Basically, it's probably a waterfall, right? Even though I think even in email there's challenges with a waterfall. I think sometimes you should just use maybe one provider, and probably the one that's at the top now in certain platforms. It is what it is there. So you just got to kind of look at the trends there. I think everything's going to go towards the API though.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree. So let's see. Where do you think people should be focused on? Like, if they're trying to vet new data, what's the best way that they can be doing that? Because obviously there's a lot of conversations around which data is the best, why is it the best, how is it the best, etc.
Yeah. So, I mean, so here's where this gets interesting is that, if you're going to look at your target market, right, everything seems to be based off, you're never selling to the person, you're selling to the account, right? So you look at an account, you can get that information from a search. Now, one of the things we can see is, we've had people that have tested sort of the Zoom inflows in the world and those, and they're getting a little bit further away from the source. Now, if you look at what the source of really all of this information is, it's probably going to be a platform that has business information that gets updated regularly. And there's really only one platform that has that, right? There's just no other real way to do it, right? So it all stems there. That's the closest to the source of whatever. If you're, trying to find like the clean, that's where it all comes from, right? I'm sure, it's whatever platform can provide that. Now, that platform could be a data provider now. They're bigger than ZoomInfo, right? So you have to really look at, that's $1 billion data business as well, right? So they're going to want to protect the moat. They're going to want to keep it there. And they have the moat, except they have another thing where they have to sort of protect also privacy. So there's a lot of other competing factors there. But what I think is going to happen is you're going to continue to see a trend of it's going to get a little harder and harder to get the accuracy. So there's going to be a lot of things you're going to want to do to your lists. Job change detection, stuff like that, really going to be important. You're going to want to also have all of your APIs. You're going to want to look at getting more real-time data from sources like Clay, right? Trying to find the ones that have the real time that aren't giving you like emails that, from people that don't work at there or fake names or whatever. I would test these providers though, right? Like put them through a little bit of a gauntlet and, whoever comes out on top, use that one, right? I mean, I think that's where it's going if you're an agency.
Yeah. Yeah, nice insights. So I think we'll come back to data here in a minute. Let's do a little bit of a pivot. Now, I wanted to talk about maybe you giving advice to people who are building their first SaaS, what tools they can be building frameworks in, how they can be building quickly, how they can iterate, how they can figure out if they have something worthwhile before they spend months and months and months building something. And so I want to talk, maybe you can give some just functional advice for even people that are using like, Cursor and some of these things to build like little tools for themselves internally and in their own company. So I think giving some advice there would be helpful. I see Taylor's joined us. I know he's going to have some good questions. I also see Taylor's been hormosified with the strip going on. Interested. But if anyone has any questions, let's drop them in the chat, or if you've got a good question and you want to ask it, feel free to go ahead. Otherwise, Jesse, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I think where you're going to see a lot of these agencies run really efficient, at least the ones I'm talking to are running really efficient business models. Some of them are operating at margins that you would put as a SaaS company, right? Many of them are. They've realized you can do a lot of this, and they run some of the most efficient business models there is in the world, right? And I think that's something to really think about is, now that I could vibe code out, a top publicly traded SaaS company platform in probably a couple of hours now, right? Which it's sort of created. And this is actually the funny part. You could actually do it and you could put it on a newer version than what they're using of the same technology that they're using to build it. And you could put it on a more efficient server and, like compute structure and storage and, all of the things. You could put that out in a couple of hours. The product's there now, right? You're like, okay, this is kind of weird. Now, it's hard to find developers that are sort of AI-friendly developers. In fact, sometimes you have to hire ones that aren't and sort of, nudge them in the right way to get there, because it's definitely a change, right? It's a huge change for their team. The really good ones are probably doing like 6 projects at once, right? But product building and sort of developer experience, as well as like being really a student of like how to build these apps so they like talk to you while you're using them, and the screens are changing and they're like, they know what you want before you even say anything. Those are going to be the areas of success, right? And anybody can build it now, right? You could build any of these products really pretty quickly. It's going to be about how you get it distributed. That's going to be the problem.
Is anyone in here vibe coding anything? Has anyone built any tools for their own agency? Anyone have anything they can talk about?
Taylor and Dean, I've talked to both of them. So Dean built a pretty good business model.
Tons of stuff. I'm building tons of internal apps for the team to use. I actually just bought Cursor for everybody on my team yesterday. And I'm like starting to just shoot them looms of everything I'm doing. Like, why the hell not? Like, I had a VA. What was that?
Did you hook it up to Mercury? Did you create an API key in your Mercury account?
I'm going to. Yeah, I really want to do that. Yeah, exactly. Like, why not? Actually, I was talking to my wife about it yesterday. She was like, oh, I accidentally used our personal card for like a business expense the other day because she owns a business too. And I was like, oh, it's no worries. I'm just going to have an AI comb through everything at the end of the year and categorize it all. So whatever. Yeah.
It's really, it's pretty impressive what you can do, right? Where it's going to really change too is like so a couple of the trends there they're going to matter, right? The context limits are going way up, right? That's if anybody was having with code, that's been the problem, right? You're right now the normal sort of compute layer is at about a 250, 70K token. That's just like a size of what it can see. So AI does very well at the smaller code bases. Then what you got to do is if you can fill the context around what it doesn't know, you can sort of, and also create rules of things that it can do wrong to steer it away from that. That's where the superpower comes in, right? That's where you become like pretty much immortal with business or technology. So every single thing we do, like there's not a single app in our company that we use that's like off, like we don't use any, like every SaaS product, I guess maybe Slack, but that's like, we don't really use it too much. I mean, but like we're not going out there and, and HubSpot's so cheap and it's cheaper than a Postgres database, pretty much. You can store as many company records in there as you want. So, but other than that, like there's really nothing else you really need. And content creation, cheat sheets, branding stuff, documents, emails. And then I guess maybe, email sequencer or whatever. Sometimes setting that infrastructure is kind of tricky to set up, but there's not a lot of those like a lot of these like smaller SaaS offerings are going to be in starting to really cut into. I can't imagine if you're a Canva or something. I mean, Canva's gonna be fine, but I mean, you're a smaller photo application. People are gonna try to find. They're gonna be able to do a lot more now with their AI, right? Especially with Claude skills, because now you can have people make really easy to use. I mean, Claude skills is probably where not everyone in your team is gonna love Cursor, the black screen with theorem. Probably help them get into light mode in the beginning, just so they don't turn into a really. But Claude skills are starting to really pop. We're seeing that. That's basically Claude has come out with a way to sort of send through your team. Really get some reuse.
Maybe we can talk about that for a second because, like, again, I haven't been deep in the tools and the products for a while, right? So, what's Claude skills? And then, like, going back to some of the cursor and vibe coding stuff, how can people get started? That's second
Yep.
question on my mind. And third is it there yet? Like, for me, you're like, we never used it because it never felt like it was there, felt like it was glitchy and stuff. Do you trust it now for when you're vibe coding stuff to actually be consistent and be like robust when you're building something?
Oh, it's much better than it's so the good thing is I've been able to finally get I've had a couple of people that I thought were going to change over their mindset wasn't going to change. And then I would get on a call with them and I'd say, all right, let's talk about pretend like there's no AI, right? And let's talk through like what you normally would do, right? So I have them, these are people who are the non-believers at first, right? And then you're like, all right, so if we're going to build this application without AI, how would we do it? And we'd say, we'd agree to some parameters, right? And then I'll say, okay, let's do it. Okay, boom. And then it goes, and now, you're running it, you build a plan, you're basically in the plan, you're using different models, your cost is way down. Now you've got the rules in there. Now it's basically using code that you didn't even know existed. Because I'd ask them, I'd be like, well, give me the newest feature functionality of Next.js 16, right? They have no idea, right? Okay, so because they're already working on it, right? Okay, well, are you using the new React compiler? It's going to speed up. Are you using the new, there's a bunch of other things that it's added. Like obviously there's no middleware.ts file anymore. There's a bunch of things that they don't know. So I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be in this code. You're not going to know that. So you've already found one piece of value that you have because you wouldn't have known any of that. We're going to make rules that are up to date. And then you're going to go through like that whole list of rules and show them that the application is built with guardrails. And you can't, like, if you know what the guardrails are and you keep it in that box, you can't make a mistake. It's really hard for it to make a mistake. And you don't get into those loops as much anymore, right? And with the context windows going up and, the vector database that they're storing it in going up, I mean, it's getting a lot easier, and it's going to continue to go that way. And if they're not into the black screen, the IDE screen, plot code, and sort of their skills, you could put Python code in those skills and make it do a lot, right? Like a lot. Data enrichment. I mean, really anything. So, I don't know.
Jesse, for the thing that's been holding me back from doing this more is, I know it's hard for you probably to zoom out to somebody that doesn't have as much technical knowledge as you've accumulated, but it's like the unknown unknowns, right? It's like, I don't know how to check this thing. I don't know where to look for mistakes that it might have made. So if you were coaching somebody on doing this, it sounds like Claude Code would be the better beginner friendly version in general. It sounds like.
I would actually say
Tell me.
start if you want to, because you're going to want to get a reward if you're working on it. What's really hard is when you spend a lot of time doing something and you're not getting any reward for it. It's actually really hard to continue. So what I would say is start with I would say start with V0 or Lovable kind of if you connect Supabase, but I think V0 is becoming a little bit more palatable that you'll get it out to the market. And Bolt, right? So Replit, V0, Bolt, and Lovable, right? I think what you got to do first is try to ship something that has security holes in it. And by the way, those are going away too. They're starting to really force you to like they know what people are doing, right? They're watching the feedback loop. So you can definitely ship an app. And what I would start with is an internal app with V0, or V0 is the Vercel sort of platform. And I would start with one like that, but hook a database up to it, hook authentication up to it, hook an object storage up to it, so it can take a file. Like all of those things, once you check those boxes, app right there, build that internal app. And then maybe you hire a developer to look at it. You have them look at the code. Somebody who knows a little bit about security, somebody who knows a little bit about sort of building a React web application, like full stack application developer. Ask them what they think. What did you do well? Then go run it through Claude and say, hey, how would you rate this application? What would you say? Where are the areas that I could improve it? Where are the security holes? Where are the operations holes? How would, what would improve this application performance? Ask it some of those questions and see what it comes back with, right? You can hook Claude up to your GitHub after you push it into GitHub. Then you're like pretty much there, right? It's only a few more questions you have to ask to really, there's not much more to it than that, right? The next problem comes like concurrency, queuing, and sort of rate limiting and all those. That's like the next big hurdle you'll have. But in the beginning, if it's an internal app, what Taylor is doing is pretty impressive. That type of like internal. That's what we did with our SaaS product. We turned our internal app into a SaaS, basically. That's what we were using.
Taylor, I want to ask you this because you obviously made the leap from like Lovable stuff to Cursor. Any thoughts on like making that leap, or do you wish you did it sooner? Or?
The tools just like weren't good enough not too long ago. And even then, like Cursor 2.0 has a lot of stuff inside of it that I think, like I was using Cursor at first, like 2 weeks ago, then I switched to Claude Code inside of Cursor, and then Cursor 2.0 came out. Now I've just been using that. And before then, I just feel like the tools weren't good enough. Or they were too complicated or whatever, right? Like I still don't really know what it means to like run a command inside of my CLI or whatever. Like the AI just does it for me, but now it actually knows how to do it. So, I don't know, just something seems different about them to where they actually can take in a dummy like me and understand what I'm trying to do, even though I'm not a developer, right?
Yeah, I think what's really important is actually what's helped me a lot is I had one contract developer on our team, and just him and I, it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where he would have to push code for me, right? I didn't even know how to really like clone a repo or whatever, right? And I would give him tasks and things like that, but he was good at explaining things to me and stuff like that. But then I did a lot on my own, and I just started to catch up. And what it was is the AI like teaches you as you're doing it. Now, this is as you have 6 or 7 cursor windows open and you're tapping through everything, tapping through it fast. But this is like where I think it's like a literacy of its own form, right? You'll see incremental change. You won't see like the big steps until you put a little bit of time into it. But it's like anything else. It's like if you want to get good at golf, 10,000 hour kind of thing, you got to really commit yourself to it. Now, there's some founders who will say, "Oh, that's a waste of time. Hire a bunch of engineers to do it." I actually think that's the worst advice you can get from people, because the technical founders, I've been 3 or 4 CEOs, and they're all of them 3 or 4 tech CEO founders that have pretty good investment rounds, and most of them want to know how to build content on LinkedIn, and you can do that really easily with Cursor. Everything I'm building on LinkedIn is on Cursor, really.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any good just like simple use cases that they've built something like vibe coded something that they're using internally? I know like Taylor, without giving away too much of your sauce, we keep picking on you, but like Anything that you're using on a regular basis for your agency or to help you with that type of stuff? Or Jesse, anything that
I
you?
did show you one thing I'm doing myself. I'm not releasing this product, but basically we built something just for social listening because we wanted to see like what competitors we want to see. Basically, we built our own, just for like social listening, of course, just to see who's talking about us, right? We want to see how's that going. Are we trending up? Are we trending down? What's the engagement? We're watching the ecosystem of where, who's mentioning us repetitively, the date ranges, things like that. So that's like one thing we're doing.
Yeah, that's rad.
Just figured
That is sick.
Sure.
Here's a good question, Jesse, and maybe you've got some advice on it because I know you've given me advice along the way. For anyone that's got an idea, right? Maybe they haven't even vibe coded it yet, but is there a good way to test the market if you've got product market fit to some degree? Probably kind of leading question here to like maybe sending emails around, like seeing if people are interested in your product, like sending just stuff to see if you get interest back, etc., before going all in on building stuff.
I would just ship it right away. Like I would obviously don't put anything sensitive in it. Like if you can avoid any PII, that's good. Like, because there's a couple of database issues you might have, but if you can kind of figure those, I would ship the authentication part of it immediately. And just think of it as like a content site in the beginning, right? Like, all right, you got one thing, it does this one thing, whatever. I would start there, right? Say like ship the auth wall first, or the lack of an auth wall. Like, if it's just more, I would ship that first. That's the first thing I would ship. I wouldn't ship anything. Like get that out there and just get people in there and logging in. And just watch the screen, install post hog, and just watch and see how they're using it. That's what I would do first. Right. And if that works, then continue. Yeah.
If I was going to go back in time and redo everything, I would probably send 1,000,000 emails selling my product before I even built the product to see if people are actually interested and what the response rate looks like on that tool. So just a little piece of friendly advice for those out there building SaaS tools. Noah, what's up, man?
So I had an idea recently. Basically, I'm like really frustrated every day when I'm sitting there building clay tables and I'm trying to think of the most efficient way to do something. Like there's just so much information out there and you spend hours in GPT and you're going back and forth and the information, I'm sure some people don't use that, but I have to still like have some level of assistance. So my idea was to be able to build out like a helper effectively, which was like trained on Eric stuff and the gold standard that you could use on the side. And then I basically went to Upwork, did like a post, asked someone to build it out for me. My question is that the complete wrong approach? I should just sit there and just vibe code it myself, and then I have something that I can use for myself. And I'm sure everyone else has that frustration, so that's why I was building it. Yeah.
Clay is an interesting one. I'll tell you the architecture you need to. So if you can figure out like the architecture you'll need to like access the tables and all that. So there's, it's an API. They're an API platform, but they've got a little bit of it's a little bit hard to get at the data for good reason, right? There's sort of like some, smart move on their part, the way that they're doing it. So what I would say is the way that you could do it, and I don't think they're really that concerned about people doing this, so I can say it, but is you can do it with a Chrome extension. What you'd want to do is have a Chrome extension basically on your browser that you load with. You'd basically have it like it basically would observe. There's two ways to do it, right? You could use like the new ChatGPT browser to do it. That sort of works a little bit. But then if you really wanted to do one that was a little bit better, you could use a clay table. You could build a clay table extension that that works on the back end, and then you could vibe that out. And that's a really good one for Cursor because it's a little bit of a tricky one. You have to load it in your browser. It has to kind of be on your own computer because you have to load it unpacked in your browser. Like all Chrome extensions have to be loaded. Like when you're testing them before you ship them, you have to load it in your browser, and you could build what you're talking about in a Chrome extension really pretty easily with
Nice.
Cursor. But I would start doing it. If you run into a block, then you go and get an engineer to sort of help you out. Maybe that'd be somebody who knows like specifically. You want people with deep knowledge about a specific topic. So like when I ask somebody like how do you build it, I go and like find who is the best person on the internet that knows Chrome extensions, right? And then I just absorb all of their information that they have, and sort of play that back. I mean, that for this one you would need the person who knows how to build Chrome extensions the best.
And is that the
Then,
kind of way that you do it though? Is that the kind of way you're like, okay, I'm doing this, it's pissing me off every day. I'm like, I could do this to solve this problem. And then that's the evolution of how you then be like, let me build something to solve that.
yeah, the two ways to do that one is you could use either like this would be a little bit challenging. You could use like Puppeteer, more of like a UI sort of testing platform thing, but that get a little clunky. I think you'd probably rather have this one in like a just to guide you along, but you'd probably want to do this one with a Chrome extension. I'd say start out at first, unrestricted, no, like just on your own system locally, build out like one feature, have it like analyze the table, because what happens in your browser is recording the screen, right? This is like where screen scraping comes out of, right? Your browser is recording it, and there's a file that your browser is writing to, and the Chrome extensions can read that file really easily. So if you built this in Chrome and you gave context of what Clay is, I mean, it knows what Clay is, right? You don't have to worry about that because there's enough stuff on the internet about it, right? So then you would say, all right, I'm building a Chrome extension to sort of help there. And then there's an accelerator app for Clay, or not for Clay, for Chrome. There's an app that helps you like ship a Chrome app easier. Forget the name of it. Of course, I have it. But if you build that and you look at the other thing you do is look at GitHub, find like a similar Chrome extension that people are building. Like there's a good one on there for Loom. Like somebody built like a really good version of like Loom or screen recording in GitHub. It's really good. So if you take that to start to learn how to do that, but then you have Cursor sort of take code that's out there already, for yourself, and then you install that in your browser. You have to load it as an unpacked extension, which is like the unofficial extension. You probably aren't going to ship it in the marketplace right away, but I would start there. And it's a Chrome extension, and find people who know how to build Chrome extensions really well, and give Cursor that information and just say, build it and use the thinking model, and believe it or not, it would probably have it. It would do it pretty quickly. You probably could do it this afternoon. If you want to do it this afternoon, you could probably have it done, ship it out and sell it.
I was about to spend $700 on Upwork just before this call. So there you go. Save me some.
I would, the $700 could be well spent. The problem is if you start it now, the first $700 is gone. So it doesn't matter because you don't have the answer to what you're doing. So if you go to Upwork, and this is where people lose a lot of money. They go and they say, hey, I want to build an app. Here's what I'm thinking. That's brutal. And I bet everybody here has failed at that, that's trying. What you want to do, if you go to Upwork with that, you say, I want to find somebody who's built and shipped 6 Chrome marketplace applications that analyze the data that's in the browser after a login screen. Then you go to Upwork on that. Then you're talking, now you got some. So the problem is people go too early to these, like they give up too early. And what they don't realize is if they figure out what they want first, and they figure out like, hey, I think I know the answer, but I got to go to somebody who has who's built it successfully, has the receipts, as they'd say. But, that's what you really need, is you need that person that knows how to build Chrome web store applications, right?
Nice. Awesome.
That's the technology you'd use. And then you find somebody who's really good at that, only that, like that's their whole life. Like find the person who's talking about that, right?
That's good advice.
Yeah.
So quick question. So I'm going to have to jump. Jesse, you can close up the session if you want. It looks like we've got Vaibhav on here, who will be our guest session in 3 weeks. So welcome, bud. Good to see you. So as we wrap up, again, please feel free to drop some questions in the chat, and then I'll make you host, Jesse, and you can just shut it down when the kind of questions are done. But out of curiosity, what's upcoming for Lead Magic, and what can we expect to see on that? So a little bit of Lead Magic.
Yeah, no, we're really excited. So I added two new engineers to the team, or basically really one big thing is we're working on is just increasing coverage model. So we've gone on our mobile finder, we've had about at least a 30% increase in like find rates. So that's pretty good there.
Great.
We're also from a response perspective, I think I've tested every API that's on there, and I think we're definitely the fastest, when you're getting the results. We've increased our weight limits quite a bit. Then the other thing we're launching is the list enrichment stuff. We're making that a lot faster, and we're adding a couple of extra things to sort of integrate with Smartlead and some of the other sequencers out there to basically grab the data, but also, enrich it, and then also give you some analysis on. We have some analysis that we think is pretty unique around like where people are struggling right now to get to the inbox, sort of help you there. So that's like another thing we've got some really unique testing that we've done there. Some of it's based on the fact that we've validated now. We're validating a lot of emails per day. So we handle a tremendous amount of volume, so we can see patterns now that are sort of changing. Obviously, we see what settings are on a domain name to tell you if it's going to be harder to get emails through. So what we think, the theory is that if you are getting more positive responses and replies early, the domain health goes up early, and it's harder to go down. But what people do is they start with really hard. You want to sort of go to the easier providers first with science and math of like which ones are going to let you in. And then you want to kind of get the domain health going, right? Because new domains are their biggest target right now, right? Domain under 30 days old is going to be very hard to get delivery on, right? There's just no reason that they don't think you're a spammer, right? So, it's stuff like that, right? Like we're going to have some intelligence around that in agent in there, though. We're working with some of the modern AI sort of tooling, chaining, and that type of stuff. So, yeah, pretty exciting stuff right now.
Sweet, man. Well, look, I made you host. I'm going to let you wrap it up. I know you're in well-capable hands. Last question from Nikita, and then I see one from Noah in here, but Nikita said, what is the best way to find product market fit for the products built fast on Cursor? With that, I'm going to jump and keep coming back, guys. Tuesday trigger sessions are back in full force. So thanks, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say stay off the phones with people. Just try to I know this is like anti-advice. A lot of founders are like, oh, let me get on a call with you. But I think it's like, look, if I got on calls with people, they might tell me something different than they think. They probably just want to get on a call and talk to me, right? Like about something else, right? Like that's the problem with a lot of founders. They had pretty good careers. They had, it's like people want to get on the phone with you, right? So you're going to say something different to somebody. You're not going to give a John T. Worthington type approach. Your product sucks and you suck and your life sucks on a call. So you almost want that in the beginning so you can fix some of the things that are going wrong, right? V does a great job with support. I think that's where he learned so much about. He probably still is right now, like answering support tickets. I mean, I'm answering a lot of mine too, right? So I already know like where our challenges are, right? You do that, but I think what you got to be careful of is the second you get on a phone, it's more of like a sales opportunity. So this is where a lot of founders go wrong. You want to get a lot of feedback initially, but you got to be careful that you don't screw up the type of feedback. I think you got to analyze screen recordings more. You got to use like, are they logging in every day? Do they really need this product? If they're not, you might not have anything there, right? And just keep building and do it in public so people can see it. Don't go stealth mode on everybody. You're not really saying anything that anybody can't build or copy. So stop thinking that you're going to do that. I don't know. I'd like to hear V's comments on this one if he doesn't mind chiming in because he does it better than anybody.
Hi everyone. I don't want to take away the limelight. The question was around how to find product market fit. I think Jesse's on that to a piece. Customer support, even though we're not there, you want to be better, is the best way you can build and drive more customers. I think retention is your best metric. In the AI world where everyone builds the same thing and it's easier and easier to build new stuff, is to Jesse's point, is everyone coming back to the product? Are they using more of it? Are they wanting to buy more of it? If you can get that, that would be a good signal to kick off, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the consumption model has really made it so, if you look at like Jacko Vanderkoy, he has if you're gonna have impact, on the pricing and you're charging them more money, you got to give them something in return, and that has to be very congruent, right? And also hit the market conditions. So pay-as-you-go pricing it's the least risk for the customer, and that's really what you got to look at is the impact versus reward thing, and the longer they have to commit to, right? The sad thing is even a month right now is a long time. Like the standard right now, if you a monthly subscription is like scary to people because they forget it's on their credit card. So if you're building something, think about it more of a impact-based pricing, like a pay-as-you-go right out of the gate. Now, that doesn't really help you if you're a SaaS company because you got to keep the lights on. If they're pay as you go and they don't use the product ever for the next 3 years, you still have to support them for 3 years and you have to have employees. So it's a hard math problem to solve. What you can do is, first of all, you're going to have to build a product that people want to buy monthly. right? So that's a harder, people are watching. There's a lot of services out there that get those charges off your card if you're not using it. So we were really rigid on like, when we see people using, we actually keep track of we're looking at the consumption more than anything, right? Because that drives all the future behavior. So you have to, that's one of the problems in some of the vibe code stuff that people are doing. They don't necessarily install the analytics. I like Posthog. Let's be the one that I recommend. Very easy to use. And, you want to see what changes there over time. Nikita, did that answer your question? Let's see here. Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, any other, let's see, how do you evaluate complexity? So I'll take a couple more here. Choose executing one idea of the other from a total beginner. There's no curious. Yeah. So, I'll tell you where things get complex. I can kind of help you there. If you think about, let's talk about a really complex one, sending emails through a lot of different boxes and mail servers. That's pretty hard to do. Email validation requests through a lot of different mail servers. That's pretty hard to do. It gets harder when you do more of them, because you have to change a lot of the way you're doing it. Whereas easy is more if the customer is interacting with data that is sort of static or near real time, that like kind of helps a lot, or something that you can put in batch. Like if they need the answer right away, it's one type of data. And if they need the answer later, if it's kind of like a nightly thing or like an email thing, it's a little easier to do because you have more time. Like right now, we obviously take a lot of API calls from products like Clay and Apollo and the other ones that are working with us. And when they demand a response in 2 seconds, and regardless of what time of day it is, they have to get a response in 2 seconds or whatever it is, right? And if they don't get the response, then they move us down and they don't buy as much of us. So that's where it gets harder. When you have commitments like that, you have revenue that has to come in like that. When it's a list enrichment, they come back to it a day later. That's a little easier. Yeah, I think that's where it gets harder, is like when you need the stuff real time, or there's a lot of the stuff you need, like large data volume, gigabyte, like stuff that doesn't fit in your browser. It's probably a good benchmark, like 50 megabytes. Those are the times it gets harder in complexity. But if it's more content driven and it's more maybe connecting to one other system or partner API or something, that's a little easier. Or if it's connecting to AI right now, it's getting a lot easier. There's a lot of AI gateways out there that you can sort of integrate with and get the cost structure down. That would be what I would say, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, let's get back to the primary.
Yeah, exactly. And one says, just because you're the numbers, what's the most effective way to attain? Yeah. So filtering. Yeah, so this is hard. I mean, obviously, I kind of said a little earlier, like the source is there's a B2B platform that has business people on it that update their profiles very regularly. Like if they change jobs and things like that, it kind of starts there. That's like the identifier. You take that and then you probably need to search from that. Now, there's vendors out there that do that. There's a lot of those like export Apollo type people, but like most of those are obviously Apollo doesn't want their data being copied or anything, so they're sort of stopping that. That's a good thing, right? Then you have a lot of other vendors that are sort of getting daily. So I think what you want to do is maybe do a job change analysis on the data first, wherever you're getting it from, to understand how far away it is from the source, right? So like that's what I would look at first, is like how far away, how long ago, like find people that have changed jobs in the last 30 days and see what company they work at in the platform. If you look at something like a Zoom info, they'll probably be about 6 months, 9 months out, right? That's rough, right? So, but the good thing about phone numbers is they don't really change much. Most people don't change their phone number. They just stop answering it. So I think that's why you need the validation stuff. But like if you're going phone number, you want to stay around, find out if they know where the person works. But even if they don't, it's probably still okay, because if they have the profile. Email is a different story though. You're not getting a response if they didn't work there. So that's why you gotta be there. So I'd say on phone, you just gotta really sort of look if they know where the person worked or where they worked, and then how, test the numbers with data and do that. And then I think there's a lot of value in these like sort of mobile validation providers like ITNEC, those ones. I would definitely take a look at those guys for those type of stuff. Quality is going to always win over the quality or the quantity stuff, right? For mobiles, you don't want to dial the wrong numbers and spam and get blocklisted, Oops. Maybe I'll take that one more. Let's see. Yeah, here's a good one. Phone validator. Yeah. one. I mean, you want to see if it's a mobile number. The only thing is it doesn't really cover ported phone numbers, which can change. Somebody has a landline. If they port it, it still shows as the old one. Let's see. Sends a WhatsApp message, wants a clay table. Yeah. So if you were going to build that, once it finishes, okay. So it's a little trickier once it finishes. That wrinkle adds a little bit of complexity, but what you would do is you would send it in with a webhook into Clay they have a webhook for each Clay table. Then what you would do is you'd have it send back to another system that it ran successfully.
I'll have the spicy chicken without tomato.
Sounds like a good move. But basically, like,
Yep.
you want to get that back to Clay
Could
table.
be
It's good order.
could be the hot one. The hot one. Yeah. That's it, Raphael. For us.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, come on, man. No, but basically, like, what you want to do is with that one, you want to send back how many times that it came back, that the response came back, and you want to say got all of the data. So you would send into Clay, and then the last step would be sending out of Clay, and then you'd have it report automatically run live. And then you would know how many ran through. So once it hits the number, you would say it's done, right? There's probably a little bit of weirdness in there. You'd have to there's a few things you'd have to do to make sure that that's done right. But you kind of send them all in, then they push out, and you could put it in a source, right? Another source if you wanted to, but you just have to trail it, make sure you know how many you sent in the beginning, right? It's like a queuing system. Does that make sense? The WhatsApp part, I'll give you that one. There's a couple of tools out there that do WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a pain in the ass, actually. I've tried to build a bot on there a couple times. You can do it. So the risk is using your own phone number, because if you get banned, you gotta get a new phone. It's a little bit hard, but there's a pretty decent WhatsApp API called Wappy. So basically, once that thing finished, you could have it send to that one, and you'd have it. I think you have to bring your own phone number on that one. There's a few ways to do it on WhatsApp. There's a couple other services out there that do it, but WhatsApp is a pain in the ass. Like, it is ridiculously hard to. It's probably like LinkedIn, right? There's also like Unipile, right? Unipile could work too. Probably might even be safer for your own account. Actually, I wasn't really thinking about that one, but Unipile is like an all-in-one API. So that's how you'd send the notification. So it would go, you'd push into the webhook, you'd send it through all of the API calls that you want to make in Clay. Then you push out when it's done, when the result's done, and you just have a counter on the other side. This is probably a better workflow for end-to-end, to be honest with you. It's better. It's always going to be better in code, probably. But like, if you're not vibe coding and you want like no code, low code, end-to-end probably would be better play there. That's a pretty simple use case for end-to-end. You would use Unipile or Wappy Cloud for the API on the other side to get the data onto WhatsApp. But beware when you're testing, if you accidentally blow up the number, if it's your own WhatsApp number, which I've done before, and figured out, wow, be careful, because Zuckerberg and the team over there, they're not big fans of automation on WhatsApp, or they've been very big on experience. You can do it. I mean, once, enough effort, you can do just about anything in life, right? But it's not easy. They have a lot of stuff in the middle of that. I've tried to build bots on the SYC a lot, and it's like, dude, can't even get a goddamn connection to the system, right? It's really hard. There's some open source out there too. If you want to build it in code that connects for you, it just uses the web application to connect. So it's just like a web automation, basically, is what it is. But you got to be careful, because if you're logged in on your phone and you're logged in on your desktop or whatever, and then you're logged in on this creepy web crawler automation app, now you're talking, you're getting caught.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that for very long. They're going to, I remember, I was working on it one time, and I just had a lot of these issues, and I blew up a couple of WhatsApp accounts of my own, so it screwed me. But all right, cool. I think that'll do it here. Message me in the DMs here if you need anything. You know how to get hold of me, and good chat with me. Thanks, Christian, for setting this up.
Yes, Jesse.
John T. Worthington.